All right. Okay. All right, David. I'm ready to start the audio. So we're on in three, in two, and one. Welcome back, everyone, to another exciting episode of Aaron's Opinion, the podcast for blind people where we speak about critical issues in the blindness community and all other issues from across the universe and galaxy. Tonight, or this morning or this afternoon, whenever you watch this, we are very pleased and very honored to be joined by someone who, in all honesty, I really have wanted to speak to this person for a couple years now. We're very glad to be joined by David Dunphy. David, for one thing, how are you tonight?
I'm good. Can you hear me okay?
I hear you perfectly. Thank you for asking.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I'm doing
So
all right.
before, we're going to be talking a lot about shining lights on people in 2020s and beacons. But before we do that, we certainly need to know who David Dunphy is. You've done a lot in life so far. So over the next hour, I want you to tell me who David Dunphy is, and then you can walk towards talking about 2020 the beacon and all the ways that you're shining a light on the world. So go. Who's David Dunphy? Your hour starts now. Go.
Oh. I'm not all that exciting to give you a full hour of that, but who I am is I am somebody that, I'm a person. I have um I've been into radio and broadcasting and podcasting pretty much since I was a kid. Although obviously podcasting didn't come around till a little bit later than that. But radio has always been a part of my life. I've always enjoyed listening to music. I've always enjoyed hearing the different transitions that DJs would put on for radio shows and different ways they'd mix music. That's kind of how I got into it because I always enjoyed how different songs would get mixed together and trying to figure out how the order of music should be put together. And then I would do cassette tapes for my family where I would, you know, but get a bunch of my, favorite albums together and try to find a way to mix and match the different songs that I knew people liked on their tapes, sort of like DJing, just sort of in a different way. The first song I ever first is music mixtape I ever made for somebody. They had a couple of songs on it, but the first song on it was Saturday in the Park by Chicago. So that was the first time I ever made a tape with for somebody. Um, but that love for radio eventually transpired into college because I decided I just would study communications and go into understanding how radio worked because it was something I always enjoyed. I would sometimes make, as I said, I would continue to do little tapes and little radio things for people, recorded stuff. But so of course, the great part about college is that, because I didn't have this opportunity in high school, is the opportunity to actually host a radio show, like actually be heard on a radio, even if it's only in a small area because of where your school is. I went to Marist College in Poughkeepsie, New York. Aaron, you from New York? Have you heard of that school?
So actually, I'm not. In all honesty, I'm not from New York. I only talk about it in the time zone, but I am on the East Coast.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
actually not, and I'm actually not a New Yorker. I actually grew up near Washington, D.C., and now I'm living elsewhere at the moment. But I'm not. I'm
Okay.
definitely. It's all right. But no, but I haven't. I've heard of Poughkeepsie, but I've not actually been to the place. But I've heard of the place. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Have you ever heard of the famous broadcaster Lowell Thomas? He actually went to my school. So we had all our classes were in the Lowell Thomas School of Communications. He was a famous news reporter and he went to Marist. So that was cool. Everything. And I've heard of him many times on because I was into old time radio shows, still am. I loved all the older recordings of Jack Benny, the Shadow, the radio mysteries and dramas. And so I've heard recordings of Lowell Thomas giving news reports. So it was kind of cool to know that I went to school with him. There's also a lot of blooper, compilations of different radio bloopers and mistakes, and he, I think, is on every one of those as well. So, you could say he's great or you could say he's crazy, but he was always very informative to listen to when he was on point. And yeah, so that was kind of cool to go to a school and actually be in a classroom in a building of somebody I was familiar with. But yeah, I got to do radio in college. That was the first time back in 1999. There was someone that was going to show up and assist me in learning, how to know what CD player worked what, because it was just a bunch of CD players and knowing which knobs controlled which ones so I could transition them back and forth. And the person never showed up. And so my mom, who was there for Parents Weekend, and I had to figure it out because obviously it was going to be a show. And so we just guessed at some things, and I did eventually get, to figuring out how to work all the equipment in the studio. Eventually, I got someone in to help, but since the person didn't show up initially, my mom ended up sort of half figuring it out, and she produced my first show for me. So I mean, I guess that was a good omen. Having your own parent produce a show, that was pretty cool. And I don't know if you've ever had that happen to you before, but it was a really good way to start my first ever radio broadcast. To have my mom be a producer for it. I mean, parents are supposed to be some of our most supportive sources of people. So I mean, if you're gonna have someone have to help you and step in a production role in an emergency situation, um, yeah, mom was pretty cool about that. But she made it very clear she would not be doing that kind of stuff anymore. She loved listening to me on the radio, but she didn't really like to produce or push buttons. But as I said, eventually, was able to figure out how to navigate the systems and to work the CD players, and so I did college radio for 4 years. And also started playing around with internet radio because I knew that I began to research that there were possibilities of people being able to broadcast from their own home using computer equipment and an internet connection. So over the summer of 2000, when I was finishing up my freshman year, I began experimenting with something with Shoutcast and Icecast and all these different technologies that some of you that do radio on a regular basis might be familiar with. They're ways to connect and stream using your computer, and then delivering that audio content out to people that can tune in if you give them connection information. That technology has grown a long way since then, but internet radio and the concept of streaming using your computer to an internet thing, unless you had millions and millions of dollars or incredible bandwidth, was a fairly new concept. So, 2000 was once I was able to figure out how to start streaming to the internet. You may have heard of something. Have you ever heard of Live 365, Aaron?
Of course I have.
Well, here's what you might not know. Live 365 wasn't always a paid license provider. It was used to be just a place for people to connect and broadcast. So Live 365 was free at one time. And that's when how I started broadcasting. Let you create a radio station, and I used to record these 1 week pre-recorded shows of me doing music and mixing songs together and talking about the artists. And I don't have any of those shows anymore. Those hard drives have long since died. And
Oh,
given the immaturity of my radio career at the time, it's probably for the best. But there were some funny moments on there. I didn't have a great internet connection, back on a Windows machine with 32 megabytes of RAM. Yes, megabytes. I said that. Trying to broadcast on a machine with that much power was definitely challenging. There were times because of my JAWS and my screen reader running. As I'm sure many of you listeners to the show are familiar with all of that stuff. It would take up memory, so it got to a point until I got a better computer where I actually had to do broadcasting from cassette tapes. Like I had to hook a tape player up to the machine and have the mixes all pre-configured until I could get a computer that could actually stream and do radio at the same time. So, but that was the beginning of my radio, time. And so, but now I actually have an internet connection that works. And Live 365 has, of course, developed into a much bigger platform for people that want to be licensed. I don't use them just because I think they're a little expensive, but more on that later. But yeah, so Live 365 it was just a place for people to connect and broadcast, and you could go live or do pre-recorded shows. I did both. So did my friend Will. Um, he and I got connected through radio. He is sadly no longer with us. He was a very close friend of mine from yeah, like 90. Well, we talked briefly in 97, and then we broke off, but then we got connected because of the radio stuff that we were both interested in doing with the internet. So we got reconnected in 2000, and we worked and were friends and hung out and did a lot of great things together till 2018 when Will, of course, passed away. But we developed our friendship through radio, and I have many shows of us doing radio together on radio programs and stations that we've done together. So that was a friendship that has brought back a lot of memories, but I do miss the guy. But anyway, so moving on after college, and once I actually had computer software that could actually, play music and do radio in a way that wasn't so um, awful because trying to do things with cassette tapes was not fun. It was cool in the very beginning just to say that I could be heard from someone's computer, but that whole thing got old quickly. So it was really nice to just be able to hook up software and just have it play music and then do voice breaks when I wanted to do them. So that got easier. I've been in quite a few internet projects, many of which don't exist anymore. Just to run down the list, one of the first ever one that wasn't a live 365 based, me just doing radio project was a project called Test Pattern Radio. I don't know, Aaron, if you've ever heard of some of these older stations.
That one I haven't
Um,
heard of. When you get to the one I remember, I'll tell you when I know it. But that one I
okay,
don't remember.
okay, well, yeah, well, Test Pattern. There's from a group of people that used to be on ACB Radio back when it was ACB Radio Interactive. That was it's now ACB Media, but the American Council of the Blind station, ACB Radio, that Jonathan Mosen started, had some channels on it. And one of them was a music channel. People could do music shows and stuff called Interactive. But I guess he and a group of people had a falling out, and so they developed this station called Test Pattern Radio, or TPR, which was, you know, like doing a live 365 thing, except I was working with other people. So it was the first official station I ever broadcast for that wasn't just me and my friend running a bunch of shows and things. Um, then Test Pattern Radio was the thing for a while. Then 2004, there used to be an audio chat site. I say used to be because it's no longer around. It was called For the People. Um, the owner has passed away since, so that's why it's taken down. It was an audio chat site that a lot of blind people, mostly older people, but there were younger people, would go to for different events. They did karaoke, they did chats, they did socials, they did different events. And they had a radio station tied to them, and they were called FTP, or For the People Radio. So I did work there. But then I eventually got involved with the aforementioned ACB Radio, or ACB, which is now ACB Media. Now I'm pretty sure, since this covers blindness issues, I'm pretty sure you're familiar with the American Council of the Blind.
I am.
Uh-huh. And so they, as I said, they used to have a channel for doing radio and music programs before they became, this media thing now. It's changed a lot with COVID and such, but they used to have a station called ACB Radio Interactive, and like I said, we would do music shows. So I eventually left FTP Radio and joined there and spent a lot of time at ACB Radio. I was there almost 4 years. For doing radio there was great. I mean, it was different times, different shows. I did a weekly program on Sundays where I would play all kinds of music, bring people on air through Skype, um, take song requests, do different theme-based shows. I enjoyed doing ACB Radio. It was really cool, because I felt like I was giving to an organization, and I got to meet a lot of people, both blind and sighted, through that station. And like I said, they've changed their format a bit now, but I really enjoyed doing ACB Radio. But after that, I decided I wanted to try to get into doing this myself and figuring out, um, how to actually put a station together, what it takes to put a website together, what it takes to stream and put people together and get a schedule on the site and build all that. I've been part of many projects, but never got a chance to build one on my own. So there was a project. I'm sure there's a few people on here that will remember it. That was my first ever station that I attempted to launch. It was called Radio 360. Where variety matters most was our slogan. It was a little corny, looking back on it, but to be able to get a radio station off the ground, um, was kind of cool. A little unique story. I was supposed to be working with a group of people who were going to be part of the Radio 360 project, but those people that defected away from it decided that, because I was also in a blindness training program at the time, when I was attempting to launch Radio 360, and they felt that I wouldn't be able to give my attention to the station if I was in a training program, so they ultimately defected. It didn't work out. And if you guys in the blindness world are familiar with a radio station that again, it's no longer around. Unfortunately, one of the co-owners has passed away since. But so he wouldn't be. But if you are familiar with a station called 2020 The Blink, which ultimately became Sky 106, then you know the people that defected from the 360, because those guys eventually started their own project. And a lot of people in the blindness world that follow radio know of some of the stations. And so 2020 The Blink came from a group that didn't want to join into my first project. And then, of course, It became Sky 106 until poor Chris Skarstad and a few of the other people involved died. And that's not to name anyone or call anyone out because they did a really good job, and I actually ended up working for them, so the relationships were good. Um, so yeah, but yeah, that was it. But so anyway, so yeah, Radio 360 was a thing for a while. Um, it was a good first project, but there were definitely things that could have been better. So Radio 360 ultimately was taken down in an effort to kind of move on to some other things. Um, and it was a good stepping stone. There was a few other attempts at projects, but I think the one I'm going to skip along to is the one I'm most proud of up until now, was the project that I actually ran before the Beacon that Aaron has alluded to. And I was stationed called 195 The Globe, and I
Where
think a
the
lot of
world
people are
revolves,
familiar with
where the
around you.
world revolves around you.
Yes, you are
Absolutely.
totally. Although, Aaron, do you know what our first slogan was? That wasn't it.
No, but I certainly like the where the world. Well, I certainly agreed with the where the world revolves around you thing. But no, what was the first
My
slogan?
ex-girlfriend came up with that slogan. We did a contest on that station in which she won that. But the first slogan, because it was the Globe, we used to call it 195 The Globe. Welcome to the radio like revolution, because a revolves, a globe spins round and round. That was the catch on that. But yeah, the
Sure,
where the world
sure.
revolves around, you did get
Yeah,
a
sure.
little
Like a
better
play on the fact that
reception.
the world is like revolving. Right, exactly. A
Yes.
play on that. That's pretty
Um,
cool too.
and
Absolutely.
195 came from me finding out about it was had to do with the listing of a certain amount of countries that were part of the United Nations. So I just
Okay.
thought
You're right. Got it.
195 the globe was a cool way, and it went well for a while. Actually, I partnered up with an individual by the name of Shane Lowe. Do you know who he is?
No, but no, but they're certainly welcome on Aaron's opinion.
Well, yeah, he's been involved in producing he does Scene Change for the Performing Arts Division podcast of the National Federation of the Blind.
Oh
He
wow. Okay.
he does a radio show, a station called Venom.fm. He ultimately
Oh,
left the Globe to do that.
Venom. You know what? The Venom thing that rings a bell. I'm not familiar with it, but I know I've listened to something about Venom F. That very much rings a bell. Yeah.
Yeah, well, they ultimately left to do. He
Oh,
left to ultimately do Venom. He wanted to get a strike out on his own. It was kind of frustrating because we've been working together for over a year on the Globe, and I mean, I applaud people that want to grow because that was my ultimate desire. So I applaud it. I just it's kind of sad because it was a lot. The station was a lot of fun, and we had a lot of people. Some came and went. We had a few that stayed and did shows for a while and then went off. Some that came, but the Globe was a lot of fun. My friend Will at the time, I was did get to be alive to see that. He loved the Globe. We took us a little while to get it going because we wanted to make sure we had the right combination of people. We had a good website. But the Globe was definitely a great memory. Like I said, that was the final project that Will and I did together before he died of diabetic complications in 2018. The Globe launched in December 2nd of 2017. Um, so, and the Globe was great. We actually did some really cool things. We had some really cool programs. One of the finest things we did was we got a chance to be the streaming provider in 2018 for the National Federation of the Blind Convention. I don't know. I'm sure you probably heard, Aaron, that we did that because that was cool.
I remember.
It was a lot of fun. It was really quite a tumultuous time for me when we did it. I got to convention that year when my sister had passed, so it was a really
Oh,
really crazy time. But it kept me focused, being able to work on that. It was a lot of fun getting to stream a full blown event for a whole week and be able to work with very close friends of mine, Chris Newsbaum. You might know who he is. He used to host
absolutely.
a show called The Blind Side.
That was great. I missed that. That was so much fun. I recall the first time I ever heard of a David Dunphy. It was coming in and sitting in the audience with Christopher Nussbaum, who's one of my great friends on Facebook. I don't hear from him as much anymore, but I really enjoyed that show. I really enjoyed that flavor. That was a wonderful product. It really was. Yeah.
Yeah, he's into teaching now, so he's kind of found a
Mm-hmm.
new calling, and I think he's
Well,
really
that's wonderful.
enjoyed exploring that. I hope the radio bug, the really quote unquote radio bug, will bite him again because
Maybe.
he was good at it when he did it. We had a
He
lot
was
of
incredible. He was
I
incredible
have
at
a
it.
lot of very happy memories of doing radio with him. Like I said, unfortunately, he's in a different place. I'm in a different place, so I don't
Mm-hmm.
really talk to him much either. But I can tell you that, those I have a lot of very happy memories and shows of he and I and our friend Clara Dietz. who is also not in radio anymore, but she used to work on a project with us called KJSC Radio with Jonathan Candler. And then, of course, she was a big part of the Globe for a while until she had to move and couldn't do radio for a minute when she was relocating to Wisconsin. But yeah, Claire, so the Globe was definitely a lot of fun. We had a lot of us. I used to do my show on Friday nights, the DJD Invasion, which has been my radio concept for the last 20 plus years. I've been in radio in some way or shape or form for over 25 years in October this year. It's really been quite a ride. 25 years, it doesn't, it's gone by so fast. I've experienced so many different things, but yeah, the Globe was great, but I unfortunately, with COVID and various other things, lost my job in 2019 and 2020. Just various things came up with that. So, and with some people, as I said, Shane decided to go do his own project, and a few other people decided to go into other things. Clara was relocating. Chris got busy with school. So we did ultimately shut the Globe doors down in 2019. And that was a difficult decision, but with me not being able to afford all the costs because of losing work and things, it was just and people having left, it just seemed like a good time um to end the Globe just because we weren't able to produce a product that could consistently grow. We did try one attempt to relaunch it like in 2020, back in 2021. Um, but that, never really took flight.
Okay.
And
Well, it was definitely on in 2022.
well, yeah,
Be-
that when we relaunched in 21 and then we closed it up finally in early 23, but we did relaunch in
yeah.
2021. Yeah, we
Hmm.
came back in 21. We had a lot of technical problems with the new servers we were using. Um, I always felt like the Globe should have gotten a new look, but a lot of people were like, "Oh, but it's such a great slogan. When the world revolves, come back, bring it back." And it was I really appreciate the sentimentality, and I was very touched by it because it did remind me of Will.
Yeah.
And I got a little drowned in the sentiment, but I think in hindsight, I should have stuck to my ground and said, "No, we need to rebuild and rebrand the product." Because although it was fun to relaunch the Globe and use some of Will's old tags again and as I said, it never really took off again because the brand had sort of teetered out for a while. And B, because we had a lot of problems with the servers we're using, I just never really felt like the Globe was able to recapture its momentum, and I never really felt that we should have done it. And I think I should have followed my gut. I wanted to. I had all these different ideas for how radio, for what kind of a radio station I'd want to do if the Globe, had gone away. I wanted to provide positivity to people. I wanted the station to be something that was a good thing. I didn't want it to be associated with unfortunately, a lot of stations run by blind people have kind of this stigma of being involved in a lot of drama and making the radio experience less than optimal. It's just a reputation that a lot of stations um, and blind radio stations have developed. So it's hard to get, people sometimes into that, but you know, I didn't want it to be like that, obviously. I wanted to find a station where, I could, give something to people and give people a chance to bring something back. I had been wanting to do a podcast for a while on finding people that do good things, like I had discovered a game for a mainstream computer game called Sequence Storm, which has a whole little add-on that he developed so blind people could play it. But it's actually a completely mainstream game, and anytime somebody figures out, does something for us in the gaming world, I think it's pretty epic because although that's becoming more of a thing now, we've always been very much behind the curve. I'm sure in talking to game developers and people on your show, I'm sure you know that we've always been a little bit behind the curve in getting the accessibility into mainstream gaming. It's something a lot of people are very dedicated and working on for blind people. There's a very passionate group of people, Brandon Cole and a few others who've done some remarkable things on that. And I am going off a little on a tangent here. I apologize, but yeah, there's some really
Don't
good stuff
apologize.
out
Don't
there.
do not apologize on my show. I'm trying to get guests to
That's
go. I'm trying to get you to talk and to go off on a tangent. That's life. Life's a tangent.
it's better than
Don't
going
stop
off on
talking.
it's better off than going on a cosine. Okay, anyway, sorry, it's a math joke. Anyway, my point. Um, but yeah. So anyway, but I think that the game. I think it's great. So things like that when someone does something without even being told to do it or not being asked to do it or not being approached to do it, at least that I know of, because I haven't had a chance to do that interview yet, actually, but I would like to eventually. I just thought it was really cool that somebody would think to do that, and things that are unusual, and I wanted to explore different YouTubers that make music and find people that have talents to share. Even if we can't turn them into overnight successes like TikTok. I mean, TikTok helps me all the time. I always check the time, on my clock. Sorry, but no, my point is that I want to help people. So, I had that kind of an idea for a podcast that would showcase the talents of people, and I had these different jointed, like little pieces, little ideas, of things that I wanted to do, and I wanted to find a way to incorporate that into a station, not just as programs, but as sort of like our culture and our belief and our attitude, because I want, I've been through a lot of some bad experiences the last few years, losing people, had some friendships kind of not turn out to be what they needed to be. And I wanted to reset in my own life anyway. So it was important for me to be able to use my talents in radio and the things that I've done to bring positivity about. And if any of you are ever familiar with the Abbey Road, if you guys are Beatles fans, if we have any fans of the Beatles out here, and if you're familiar with one of their last albums that they did together, Abbey Road, one of the things that they talk about in that album, in the second half of that album, is that there's kind of this operatic structure where they took pieces and parts of songs that they wrote. John Lennon had a song called Polythene Pam. There was a few other little bits in there that are kind of might seem like shorter, disjointed songs. And they thought it would be really cool to combine it into sort of an operatic feel and then make the last tracks on the album sort of blend together in some way. And I use that analogy because that is actually how what Aaron has referred to as 2020 the beacon ultimately how it came about, because I was listening to some music one day and I was just kind of hanging out at my house here, and I was trying to figure out these different ideas of mine because I was really missing the globe. It had not, we took it off the air for good in 23. Um, and I was missing doing radio. Chris had decided didn't want to continue doing radio any longer because of his, things with teaching. And of course, I wish him all the best on that. And the Globe just didn't really go anywhere. So it was kind of a, disappointment that the relaunch didn't go well. But in analyzing it and the different things that happened during the relaunch, I came very quickly to realize that it didn't launch because, in part of the reason it wasn't successful, certainly not all of it, because we had some really difficult technology problems that were very hard to conquer. But I definitely should have stuck with my original thought that once we took the Globe off in 2019, it should have stayed off and not come back, because I started to revisit some of these podcast ideas I had and all these different ways of trying to bring people up by promoting YouTube channels, promoting people, bringing people up. And I kind of realized that what I was actually looking to do was to be a light for people, like a source of positivity, a place where people could showcase what they have to offer and share what they think is cool and what they have to bring. And, you know, so I wanted to be like a light to that information. And then I realized that something that, gives off bright light and provides information and gives off information to people in some type of a way through signals, through color, that's a beacon. And so I just kind of went with this idea of, well, hey, we can be a light to people. We can be a source of light. We can point people to where there's other people doing good things and where people are trying to be positive and make the world better in some small way, whether it's through a podcast they do, like in Aaron's Opinion, where we talk about different things that matter to blind people, like a game that's developed on a larger scale, however that might be. And so I was like, well, if I can, be a way for people to share information, and I can point people in the right direction to where that light is. Well, that is exactly what a beacon does. And then, of course, what's the perfect vision and the brightest light possible was 2020's vision. So I decided to go with this idea of 2020 the beacon and use the station and music and the idea of music and community calls, and not community calls, but like Zoom calls and Zoom events and different types of stuff to, you know, to educate people, bring them up, help people discover other podcasters, YouTubers, musicians, find ways to use my station and the technology in radio to bring people up and to give people an opportunity to discover, other things that might brighten their day a little bit. So 2020 The Beacon came from that concept. I did decide not to use the traditional radio terminology. So we have different terms for people who join the station. One is a beaconeer, Beaconeer. That is a person that is doing a specific radio show or presentation for the station. The other is a ray of light. That is somebody that is bringing us a program from another network, like Herbie Allen does of 98.6 The Mix. I know many of you are familiar with him. So that would be something where if I wanted to ever carry one of his ACB streams that he does for the American Council of the Blind or his own station, and I wanted to present that on the beacon, that would be a ray of light. A beam of light is someone who's on a little less often. Will probably actually ultimately would have been that way if he had been with me because I've been alive, because with his health during the glow time, he really could only do shows once a month. Um, so his show kind of would have been that. But people might do both. You might have someone that helps us at the beacon, but also does some other things. So we have different. We have like an other option for that. So, and you'll see that on the broadcaster application. If you go to the beacon's website, you'll see the different terms and everything put out there. But yeah, so I just came up with this idea of how to group different people and the different ways that they can help the station based on, what I know people have been willing to give in the past, different experiences I had. And I believe the Beacon is a culmination of all the things that I've had to deal with in radio. So all the different experiences combined with me wanting to turn radio into something positive. I'm over a lot of the negativity in my life. As I was saying, I've had a lot of friendships end up kind of falling by the wayside. Recently had a breakup. Just a lot of stuff going on, and I want the radio. The radio has very much been a source of pride and joy in my life, and I want to bring that back in a different way, and in a way that hopefully brightens up people's worlds. And so the Beacon has been designed to do that pretty much from the ground up. I didn't even tell anybody I was going to build this thing until about a month before it launched. Because I very much wanted it to be within my shape of what I thought radio should be, and I didn't want any outside, not opinions, because I do appreciate the feedback that I get, because I always want to build off that. But in the station's initial building of the concept, I kind of wanted to be the only one that was architecting it. I wanted to be totally in my head and in my space and on my own creativity and imagination on it to design to flourish, because I figured if I can build a station that's in the exact type of image of what I'm looking for and what I think is good radio and what I think makes for drama-free radio and problem-free radio and creates an environment that allows people to come together, then I can, as I look for content for the station and reach out to people and promote it, I can build content and program that fits that culture while still allowing people to thrive and bring something unique in what they believe is good, and their own talents, but while still keeping it within the shape of building people up and using the station to be a source of light. Because even if we don't carry a specific program, or if someone applies to the station and let's say we just don't think it fits what we're looking, the type of sound we're looking for, or maybe it's a genre of music that we're just not really looking to play. We don't like play, let's say, heavy, violent rap or something like that, but if someone brings a show. But they're passionate about what they bring. We could still promote what they're working on. We might have them come on and talk about what they're doing or talk about the kind of radio work they do, even if we don't carry it, because like I said, we don't typically play that kind of music, but people might want to know about that kind of music. And so if we're going to be a beacon and a source of light, why, even if we don't think it fits the station, what we're trying to put on the radio, that doesn't mean that source of light shouldn't have a chance to shine. And so, I really want it to be very supportive, very collaborative. I want to help bring people up and use the beacon and the station, to do that through our programming and our content and just the atmosphere on our shows. And so 2020, the Beacon launched on December 9th of 2023. We did an event on Beacon that I've been doing for a long time. It's a fundraiser for the Make-A-Wish Foundation. I've done that on various stations over the years, where around Christmas time, maybe a week or so, week and a half, week to 10 days before Christmas, I will start a campaign on the website of the station I was on. I've done it for on the Globe. I did it on Herbie's site even. We did on the Beacon in December, and now that the Beacon is bigger, it'll probably more people will hear about it. We do a campaign that we run through Make-A-Wish, and we raise money to support the granting wishes for children for Christmas. My mother loved Christmas, and my mom loved children. So I do the fundraiser in her name every year as a way to honor her memory. So we do a fundraiser. It usually lasts several days, but about a week before Christmas, I do this 24-hour show where I get on the radio and we promote the fundraiser. We give prizes away. We do games. We We've had interviews, we've presented dramatic presentations, people have performed. Um, so we even had a Make-A-Wish family come on and talk about their experience being given granting a child's wish was granted to do a podcast, and I got the family to come on and talk about that. We've shared stories of the different wishes that they've granted. So yeah, that's always been a fun thing. So that was kind of how the Beacon launched. We were like, oh yeah, hi, here's a new station. Oh, and by the way, we're still doing Make-A-Wish. So it was very much the way I had to present it. Being the only person currently on staff in terms of the technical aspects, I do have a very good friend Janine who's helping in various roles with the station. But in terms of the actual technical stuff behind the mic, doing the website, keeping the music playing on the stream, allowing people to connect and all that, that's been a one-man show. And so it's been definitely a little bit challenging to get going when you also have 8-hour work days, so because you're busy and then you come home and you have to still attend to adulting life. This is not a moneymaker yet. Eventually, I hope it will be. Maybe I could use do some marketing work with it or do some fun things with that down the road when the station grows in size. But it isn't that for the moment. And that's okay. I'm happy to do it. It's an investment I made. I'm totally cool with it. But because I'm looking to eventually get a little bigger and have a supportive team to help with certain things, it does take some time to do it when you're just doing it by yourself. I mean, I literally, to set the station up to get it going, I literally had a computer that had no speech on it at all. None. I had to remote into that and get it to talk enough for me to install all the software and all the tools to make the station run. So I literally built this from the ground up. So, but it's taken time to do. But I'm now at a point with the station and the website and various things where I'm excited to start talking about it. We had a slight delay in getting going. A good friend of mine, another one of my good radio buddies, Jonathan Matty, who's done radio with me over the years and has passed away. We'll be doing a tribute for John coming up in the next month here. So you'll be seeing that on the station website. But in any case, the whole point is that now that some of all of that has passed, my friend's funeral has occurred and everything else, the Beacon's been able to pick up momentum now. So I feel comfortable talking about it a little bit more so that people can come check it out. Hence this podcast and other places we've been discussing it. And I invite you to check out 2020 The Beacon. So it's 2020 and then The Beacon. It's worded like you would think. No special symbols or letters. But you're invited to go to the website, 2020thebeacon.com. And it's, like I said, pretty small because it's a very young station, but its growth is definitely on the horizon for it. We'll be collaborating with Aaron. I know Herbie and I are working on things together. We carry his show. The podcast that I was talking to you about earlier that I want to bring about is going to be airing on the Beacon. I'm in time. It's probably more of a fall project, but it is going to happen. So yeah, I'm really excited that the station is starting to take some life and grow some wings, and that people are starting to hear about it. I knew a lot of people were surprised when they heard, "Oh wait, you're back on the radio again." So it's really cool. That reaction's cool, because it means that people didn't know, but it also means that we have to promote more, and so I'm excited that the station is starting to take some life and some wings, and we're working on adding things to it and building it up. A good buddy of mine, well, I was he's a good buddy, but a good buddy, another good buddy recommended Joseph Hernandez. He does a music show on another station, and he's might be joining the Beacon soon. So we're starting to get some interested talent, interested voices on the station other than mine and Herbie's. So definitely, if you want to know more about what the Beacon could offer you in terms of a radio experience, I would definitely invite you to check us out at 2020thebeacon.com. You can contact me there. There's also a Beacon application, as well as some standard things. You can listen from anywhere on the website. We do have an Alexa skill that you can enable, and you just tell her to enable 2020 the Beacon, and she'll play it every time. We are working on expanding into some other apps, getting an iPhone app out there potentially, and some other things. But those things do cost to put on play because Apple is crazy. They want to have an account where you make an app. You have to pay like $99 a year just to keep that account. It's just like silly. I mean, it's not a lot per year. It's just like, why are you adding an additional expense to this process that you did not before? So yeah, so there's those little things, but we're in the right direction and we're on an upward trend. I'm going to be reaching out to some people that I know used to do some radio stuff to see if they'd like to bring that content back because it was super good. It was a country countdown, so We have lots of things in the on the map and on the road for the beacon, but we are shining a light on you. That is our slogan. 2020 the beacon, shining a light on you. We want you as a listener to bring your energy and bring your brightness to the world. If you have a show you want to bring, we want to hear about it. And even like I said, even if we end up not being able to carry it for one reason or another, we totally still want to support whatever efforts you're putting in to get your name out there because everyone has a right to shine some type of light. And the beacon wants to be a source and give that to people. So lots on the horizon, but that is 2020 the beacon in like 10,000 words or less. So there you go.
So I'm Aaron's opinion. I support your message. I love everything you said, David. Really do, really do. For someone who came in today not completely sure, you were a little shy at first, but once it got going, I knew that once you got talking, you wouldn't stop, and I knew once you wouldn't stop talking, I wouldn't stop loving every word that you said, which I completely do and did. Cannot ask for better. And really, quite frankly, I want to say that I completely support what you're doing. Number one, number two, if you ever were confused about me in the past, if I ever came across wrong, hey, now you know me, and now you know that I support you. And I just want to say that. Thing number three, yeah, no, I totally love the vocabulary of being a ray of light or a beaconier or a light. That's like totally right up my alley. Of course, we will definitely have to. I will have to. I'm still trying to figure out how do I ever get you to send me a text message or give me a call. We're gonna you and I we're
I
gonna have
still
to
don't
sit
have your
down.
number. I still don't have your number. I don't know it. It's not on my phone. I don't have any contact info
Anyway,
for
I
my
sent
phone.
you in the. I think you saw the email where I said what my podcast was, and then at the bottom I put my number. Right?
Oh, I didn't see the end signature. Okay, maybe need to go back.
Okay,
Let's see.
please take
Okay,
no
let's
worries.
look.
Please take a look. So what this would involve you and I sitting down over the phone and me obviously talking to you about all of my opinions and ideas, whether they're good ideas or not, that's for you to decide. Whether they're good opinions or not, that's for you to decide. But I certainly have some opinions and ideas. For one thing, that I noticed that's an easy way to help you. And the only thing that I want to do is be helpful. And the only thing that I want to see out of 2020 The Beacon is I want to make sure that 2020 The Beacon is more successful than Aaron's opinion. The greatest compliment to me is for me to know that someone else who I love and agree with, as I love your slogan and everything you guys do, I want to make sure that you guys do better than me. And that would be a great accomplishment for me. So to do that, one thing I've noticed is that Facebook page of yours, man, that 2020 The Beacon page, we gotta do something there because we gotta get that page kind of up and running.
I
Um,
just built it 2 days ago, so that's a very new page. We haven't even linked to it yet
yeah.
because it does have to be built up. We just put it up 2 days ago, so thank you for noticing that because we
What?
just put it up.
Oh, I know, and I run a page here at Aaron's Opinion podcast, and I'm very comfortable running my own page. Just throwing it out there. Let me phrase the question. Let me ask you. You're the guest. So, if Aaron's opinion wanted to help you out, wanted to help 2020 The Beacon, how do you see Aaron's opinion helping out? What do you foresee that I could do, considering that I'm so interested in internet radio, learning from you, and then helping 2020 The Beacon to be successful? What do you think?
Well, we've talked about one thing, and I'm going to be working. We're working on that. You had recommended a good radio directory for the station, something called Radio Garden. So the Beacon is going to be working on getting into that in these next few days. If you know how to run a Facebook page, maybe you can help me with some of those things, at least until this
I
page kind of takes off and gets its own life to
I
then where I can take it over
certainly
because
I know how to run Facebook because I
it's not
run.
as easy to do it as it was on the computer. You used to be able to just click on pages on the mobile site on the mfacebook.com and
I
get to
got
your
you.
page. They've changed it. So and unfortunately on the computer now it doesn't work unless you use the regular site. So it's a little quirky. You need to get used to it. So maybe you can help me with some of that kind of stuff. And definitely maybe we can talk about work, promoting each other and maybe, getting your podcast out there through what we're doing. Cause I think it sounds like you have some good stuff to throw out there. So I
Awesome,
think we can
wonderful.
figure
Well,
it out.
absolutely. I mean, there's a way, of course, as you know, with a Facebook page, you can assign people to be moderators or admins of a page. So, you can certainly, if you want, we can talk and you can perhaps at some point allow me to be one of the admins of that particular page, because
Yeah.
I'm very fluent in using it on iOS and really getting managing it and paying attention to notifications and things like that.
Okay, so
Um,
maybe that could be a rule. We'll definitely have to have that phone call off air, but definitely
yeah,
I
oh,
think we could
for
do some
sure.
things together. This sounds like we could do
For
some good
sure.
collaborative
So
things
that
together
so
here.
that's one thing because there's because when the real reason and the real way to make 2020 the Beacon successful is by making a lot of tiny little decisions that are right ones that all lead slowly but surely in baby steps in the right direction. And that's what it's completely about. Taking tiny steps forward, one step forward,
Totally.
hopefully two steps more, but you got to step one little foot off that edge into the abyss of success, I guess. So that's one thing. Because that's these Facebook pages for my show or yours or anyone, that's a huge automatic marketing tool. Now, of course, as you know, you can buy an ad eventually. We'll talk off air, but you can buy an ad from me eventually. You can buy it. There's all sorts of things that you can do, but at very least, Facebook pages really relatively easy and a huge promotional tool that's quite in many ways quite automatic and quite autonomous. So it's a really fascinating thing. The other thing is, so yeah, I mean, with my podcast itself, how do you see that fitting in there? Because each episode of Aaron's Opinion is a slightly different length of time. So what were you thinking about maybe Aaron's Opinion being a ray of light? What were you envisioning, I guess?
Well, I would definitely. I'm just getting into your show, so I need to want to listen to a few more of them to kind of get a feel for it. I mean, maybe we could air it. Maybe we could do a piece on my podcast about it. I think I'm still trying to figure all that out. We've just started talking in the last couple of weeks, and I really appreciate that. This is an
Absolutely.
awesome step to start working together on things. Um, you did send me the Apple link to, I think, your podcast, so I need to listen. I want to start listening to a few episodes and getting their timing down and seeing how long they are, because you said they are
The
different
answer
times.
is the time. That's the
That's
tricky
fine.
part for internet radio. The timing is different. Each episode's a different length.
Yeah, but there's other ways, but there's
Yeah,
things we can do with that. Like like I said, this is why I said we have ways to help people. There's millions of ways that we
sure.
can still promote that. So I would just say, let me review more of the shows and we'll talk off air. And that's the
Sounds
best, but we can definitely
sweet.
work together and I
Yeah,
want to help promote your effort
absolutely.
as well. So,
Absolutely we can. Yeah, yeah. Um, And so, yeah, so I mean, and the other thing too, like I was telling you, I don't know when I was telling you, by the way, one thing with me, every day kind of runs all blurry. I can't tell what the days of the week are, but whenever it was that we were in Zoom in the group a few days back, I guess it was a Friday, I was mentioning some other blind artists. I know a lot of the other blind artists who are blind musicians. Hey man, you should play their music. So I would be more than happy to give you music that's a really good, really incredible, that's written by other blind people. So there's several people that you should be adding into the playlist when you play music on that station. I can think of like three or four different people. You gotta add them in there because they're all blind people. They're doing great stuff, and they're all really incredible. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, we could definitely do it. Maybe a piece on them, for the podcast or do some
Right. But what
promotion
I'm
of their
saying
stuff.
is, you may want to even play their music on the station when you're just playing
Well,
music.
get
Hey,
me get
play.
me the information and we'll take
Yeah,
a look.
yeah. There's like three or four people. The guy that I mentioned before from overseas, he hasn't gotten back to me yet. But yet at any rate, all this is fascinating. So, a lot of people, David, at home would want to know, how hard is it really to get into internet radio? I mean, can anybody just set up a station? How do these things, this is where I'm a little bit less fluent, how do these internet radio stations exactly work? How do these servers, like, how does this technology actually work in the essence of it all?
Well, without getting too crazy complicated on it. I mean, anybody can set up a station. A lot of it really ultimately depends on how much of a station you're wanting to build. Like if you're just wanting to put on a shoutcast server or a server or if you want to just put a server online and tell your friends, hey, I want to do a talk show and I just want to be on this once a week and everybody listen and be that, you can run that from your own computer. But if you're wanting to play music legally and you're wanting to be kind of a bigger station, there is an investment involved. Again, to say what it actually costs all ultimately depends on what you're trying to accomplish. Um, I have the station license, so we can play music legally through Mixcloud. And Mixcloud is a tool for not only doing live streaming, but it also lets creators upload their mixes. It allows people to do radio shows and upload them legally up there as well as go live. So um, it's like Live 365. If you remember my mentioning them, they've become now a provider where you can pay them a certain amount and they'll properly report your artists and how much you play of one group over another to the record companies and things like that. Unfortunately, with the growth of internet radio has become the need for people to make their money, and that's okay, but it means that there's a licensing cost involved if you want to be a legal station that they can't take off the air, as it were.
Right.
But the investment really has to do with how much you want. Like I wanted Station Playlist, which is the software I use to do radio. It plays music. It allows you to go on the air. It's what I do when I go live. It's what powers automation. It does all of our stuff. I wanted that software to power my station's automation, but to do that, I had to invest in a virtual cloud server to run it. It wasn't that expensive, but again, what's not expensive to me might be more expensive to someone else. It's all in the hobby. It's all in how much you want to invest in it. So I think so. The short answer is anyone can do it with very minimal expense. But if you do want, or maybe none at all, if you're okay with having just a microphone and you don't care if you have a lot of static in the background and you don't really care, you just want to, like I said, put out a product, then yeah, I mean, you can do it with a computer, a basic microphone, and either something on your computer or just like a $4, company that'll give you a free server stuff. But
Yeah.
if you want to go a little bit deeper and you really want to put into it, then it may, and it's a hobby that you want to expand on, you're probably going to have to put some money toward it. But to the end, to say how much, is really relative to the person, setting up their project.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, completely. That's very, very understandable. Yeah, and I'm really curious about this. So, another factor, another beautiful thing of podcasting is you're going to be finding out, as you know, podcasts are heard all over the world. So your voice is no longer, you are no longer limited to the United States. Your voice is being played now in, all the continents, really. And I'm really not exaggerating. I've looked at the downloads. I do have listeners downloads. I'm blessed with all the continents do tune in, actually. So with internet radio, how do you measure your like analytics and all of that? Are you hoping to have and another thing too is to try to include other countries, try to get some broadcasters from overseas to come up to your microphone. What do you think about that?
Well, it's funny. There's actually somebody that I want to reach out to that I used to broadcast with that lives in Scotland that used to do a country countdown show. So yeah, I'm
Oh
definitely for bringing
yeah.
people from all over the world. Um, yeah, I mean, we can be heard everywhere. I mean, if you have we are on, if anyone knows about our website, obviously when I do shows, I look at the listeners as we get more shows, I'll be looking more at that. Um, it's good to know who's tuning into our automation, but I'm more interested to hear who's going to be tuning into the actual content when it goes out because automation is just that. It's cool. It's nice to have music and things that play when there's nothing on so something can stream so people know we exist and they don't tune into dead air. But I can't wait till we have more content so I can actually measure what people really like to hear. But I always look at the listeners when I'm doing live. I look at how people things are doing. We are working. You were talking about growing Facebook. We also are going to be expanding over to Twitter and some other social media platforms as well. Again, that integration takes time. If you are a blind person like I am, um, the Twitter experience is not optimal anymore. Just because the interface has changed. It's doable, but I really want to try to integrate as much of what we do into, if I post something on WordPress that I can just go out everywhere. That way it's not because the idea of, social media, it's a way for people to stay informed of what we're doing. But I think the real interaction will be when we're actually in the studio doing fun stuff together. So, um, but we do want to increase our social media interaction. So what Aaron was saying, the Facebook page is part of that. Um, and then of course expanding Twitter and expanding some of the other social medias out there. My hope is that we will reach the the audience that would be awesome to reach because I definitely am looking to do that. And by reaching out to other people and carrying some of these other programs from other networks and podcasts, that should also increase our outreach because I'm hoping to be able to collaborate with those people and at least give them a stage to talk about what they're working on and stuff. So hopefully we can still support each other no matter what once we discover the different people that will be meeting on this beacon journey.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Cool. 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 All right. All right. Well,
Mhm.
that is a ton of really all good. All good. I gotta say, I'm not exaggerating. I have no complaints, and all I
Good.
want is for you to be successful. I can't even come up with one complaint. You are so in the right, and this beacon idea is such a good one. Not to
Thanks.
say that other stuff wasn't good ideas, by the way. I remember you from the past, from the 195 The Globe, and I remember how much I enjoyed it. So if I know that I enjoyed the past this much, I just can't wait for the future. I have a good feeling, and there's a lot of things that I have bad feelings about. But you, David, what you're doing 2020 The Beacon, it's all good for me.
Well,
Completely
I'm
all good.
glad. I'm glad. I hope it can stay that way. I hope we can continue to build up and
Well,
have the
hey,
right
all we need
people
to do.
involved and the right,
Us at Aaron's opinion.
you
Let
know,
us let us over time. We'll get to know each other. We'll get to know each other step by step. Let us.
step by step, ooh,
That's right. And
baby.
and
Sorry.
step
Yeah.
by step we'll help you. We'll help you when you ask us to help you, and we'll support you when you ask. And we'll there's a lot of different ideas that I have.
Good.
Of
Let's talk it
course,
out.
I love talking about, promoting podcasts. That's my thing, and I just find this to be a deeply fascinating thing. And you spoke so well, and I just, you have so much love and passion for what you do. You're the type of guest that I want in my WhatsApp group, my Facebook group. You're the type of person that I want in my corner, and you're the type of person who should be in smart company with Aaron's opinion people. So speaking of that, speaking of other smart people who are doing really great stuff, really great stuff. I don't know if you're familiar with him or not, but someone has their hand up over there. His name is Nolan Parrish. And
I do know
he
Nolan Parrish. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, and he's also getting into internet radio just at the same time you are. I know he's got a question because he put his hand up. Here, let me put him on. Let's see. Okay. Okay. Okay, no, I'll put your hand down. Okay. Uh, all right. Nolan, go. What was your question? I know you have a question for David.
So David,
Uh-huh.
if I were to run my own, if I had the proper accessibility tools to run my own internet-based radio station, how could I go about doing that, and how do I measure my growth of audience with the station?
Well, there's really no good, short, easy answer that I could sum it up in one podcast. Because a lot of that has to do with what computer you're using, what kind of software you have,
Mm,
to determine that. And again, budget concerns are a thing. It's a really good project. Like if you really want to get into running your own station, I definitely recommend, maybe we could sit and talk. Because again, there's no one answer on this that I could give you on this podcast. Like if you do this, this, and this will get you a station because everyone has a different, it really does take like a level of, there are the things that we were talking about earlier with, do you want someone to just run it for you and you focus on streaming? Do you want to run the whole process? Like, there's so many different factors to it that I
mm,
don't want to dumb it down and oversimplify it for you.
yeah.
I would say
And
though, to measure your growth, obviously, promotion is very important. This is where the beacon is really now kind of, you know, they give you the whole thing about Pandora's box. We've been working on this station for 4 months now. Now the box is kind of open to where, hey guys, this is what we've been doing the last 7 months. And so now, promotion is very important, utilizing social media. As you know, we have a listener list you can subscribe to on our website. So things like that.
which I've already done
Yes, you've
in the
done. So things like
past.
that. But yeah, if you want to really run a radio station, we could definitely talk to you and help you with some of that.
Okay.
Because
Good.
And I'm really interested in learning how to run my own like shoutcast server and stuff too, because I'll have to get consent not only from my parents, but I'm gonna also I've got a team of folks that may be willing to, work with me, and I could, talk to them and see if they've got music of other artists that they would recommend of me downloading and putting together on a playlist, and then downloading it as MP3 files that way, and then uploading it and getting it set up.
So you guys can talk certain. So Nolan, thank you.
Yeah, no,
You and
that's
David will
great.
certainly, I'm sure you guys will connect off air, right?
Yeah, there's different things we can definitely do. We can talk.
Yes, thank
Absolutely.
you.
Absolutely. All right, Nolan. Thanks for coming in tonight, Nolan. Much appreciated. Let's go to next one. Let's go over to whoa. No, not in that direction. Yeah. Here we are. All right, Preston. Here we go. Go ahead, Preston. You're on.
Alrighty. Hello, everyone. Hello, David. Good hearing from you as always. As you know, I've been involved with your internet radio journey ever since, well, at least Radio 360, Audio Access FM, and all the other aforementioned stations. And of course, I did tune into you on ACBRI back when I was on dial up. I didn't really switch to Wi Fi until I moved to another part of PA back in '08, and then I was on Wi-Fi, and the rest of history.
Oh,
But
you had to hear me on Wi-Fi. I feel so bad for you. That's awful. Wi-Fi. Ugh.
well, actually, it,
Oh, man.
it, it was crazy on dial-up.
Oh my God, that's even worse. Dial-up.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Oh,
meant
no.
dial-up, not Wi-Fi. I meant dial-up, but yeah,
I, I
Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
I I remember that from when I was a little boy in the 90s. Yeah.
Oh God, you've
Mine
got
was the early
goodbye.
2000s.
Yeah.
So I started
Mm-mm.
streaming in my teenage years on Windows Media Player, and of course, I
Oh,
started using
media
Winamp
player.
and Real Player.
Media player. Gosh, I remember those days. I remember getting my station in Windows Media Player directories before they stopped supporting it. Oh God, I remember those days.
Yeah. Oh,
Media player, yeah.
like
So
me.
Preston, do you have a specific question though? This is kind of a Q
Actually,
and A.
yes, I do.
Please,
Um,
please ask.
So, in your own words, what has been your favorite radio memory, either on
Great
or
question.
maybe off
Great
the air?
question, by the way, Preston. Beautiful question.
Radio memory. There's definitely been some good ones. Pretty much any show I've ever done with Will was always fun.
Oh, yes.
Um, I
You and him is a good chemistry.
I
I do
do
agree there.
I really was proud to do his tribute. I mean, very sad, of course, to lose him, but it was one of my proudest
Yes.
moments because Um, I'm not going to go into all his personal stuff, but the circumstances as they ultimately came down weren't going to allow him to have anything more happen than just be cremated. There was no service for him, things like that. So it was
Yes.
knowing him and as close as we were was one of my proudest moments to do that tribute for him. The Make-A-Wish things that we do each year really bring the joy to my heart.
Yeah, I really enjoyed those, and
Just
I
doing those
enjoyed any
things.
tributes that you've done,
Just
especially for
anything
Will.
and meeting some of all the different people I've met through radio, even though I speak of some of it as being, good and bad, but the truth is everyone has had an impact in some way, whether it was to learn, teach me something good or for something that wasn't so positive. And so I appreciate all the different people that I've met. I'm looking forward to seeing who comes onto the Beacon journey once we get out there further. So it's been fun meeting all these people. So
There you
yeah.
go. I love it.
Mm-hmm. I met you
Absolutely.
through radio, so yeah, why not?
Yeah. Why not? Why not? All right. All
Yeah.
right. Well, something. Yeah, both you, David, and Preston and Nolan. I'm sure you guys will be penciling yourselves into those contact forms over on 2020 The Beacon. I'm sure you guys will get in touch with David for sure. So
For
David,
sure.
Nolan already has, so we're and you have as well, of course, and so
oh
has
yeah.
Nolan. So
Yep.
Preston, I'm sure, and I will, and
Yeah,
we'll
oh
take it
yeah.
from there.
Oh yeah. So David, if you can ask me, Aaron Richmond, only one more question to really make me sweat to see if I'm worth my salt as a podcaster. What do you want to ask?
Okay, my question for you is, what was the most challenging Aaron's Opinion interview you have done? Either because the person wasn't easy to work with, either because you had trouble getting on the same page, maybe there was a technical issue that really made one particular thing difficult. What was a challenging podcast episode that you had to deal with?
Absolutely. Well, as you know, I'm very proud of being, and I'm not ashamed to say I'm proud because I am. I'm proud to be a bilingual person. As you know, I'm also a French speaker. So I've actually spoken
Actually, I
to
did not know that. So that's
oh,
good. I know how to say cut the grass in French. Mozilon. You know,
I got
You
it.
know.
I got
Yes.
that.
Anyway,
That's
moving
witty.
on.
That's
Sorry,
cute.
moving on.
That's cute. That's witty. That's witty. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't I gotta just be overly honest. That's not how we say it. But if that's how you're gonna say it in
No,
France,
I was
then
joking.
you do
It's
you
not
do.
coup de grace. Sorry. I'm joking, of course, totally. Kidding, of course. Glad I made you laugh. So yes, excellent. So
You're a
there you go.
character. This is
There
the other
it
reason why I
is.
wanted to
There it
make sure
is,
you're in my
Eric.
corner, man. You're I mean this in a good way. In a good way, you're a handful. You're a character.
I like that.
Um,
But to your
um,
question though, what was a challenging podcast
Sure.
episode?
So I've actually interviewed I interviewed one person from one of the a country called what was the country called? I think he was from Burkina Faso in Africa, and we did a whole recording in French for one of my episodes. So I asked him the questions in French and he answered me in French, and we had a full hour French conversation. So that was interesting. I mean, I've had other people where, I feel like, and I know you aren't like this, but we've had other people in the past that don't really understand what podcasting is, and then that can cause and that can cause some issues, which are very interesting things. But the interesting thing about this is every episode that you record as a podcast, or whether it's your first or I don't know. I stopped counting. I mean, at Aaron's opinion, we have a couple hundred of them now. So I don't know. Every episode gets more complex, and every episode is a little harder because you have more experience. So then you want to keep giving a better and better product and keep improving. So it all is a beautiful art of improvement, and it's an incredibly fascinating journey.
I
So there you go.
agree. I totally agree. Because that's how I
It's
discovered
some
shows. We've adding some new features to the DJD Invasion that have
exactly,
never aired on a project
exactly,
prior. So yeah,
exactly.
I get that growth thing. Mhm.
Yeah, precisely, precisely. If someone wants to get in touch with you, if someone wants to get in touch with 2020 The Beacon, how do they do it?
If you go to the website, www.20202020 and the beacon, THE, B is in boy, EACON, so 2020thebeacon.com. From anywhere, there is a contact link, and you can click that and fill out the little form there. Aaron was very, very excited when I told him we had a contact form. He was extremely I mean, I could have put that under his Christmas tree and he would have been happy. That really
Except,
was sort
well,
of
you
how that
mean,
was, kind
well,
of.
you mean, except for, wait a minute. No, I gotta get in. I gotta jab in a comment here. You mean you got to put that contact form under my menorah because Aaron's Jewish. Okay,
Oh,
so
okay, cool. Even better.
but
I'll give
if
you
you
8
slide it
contact
under if you
forms,
slide it under
one
my
for each
my
night.
my my menorah, yeah, yeah.
I'll give
But
you one for each night, a contact form for each night. Perfect.
well, it's not that, guys. It's not that exciting. Okay, it's beautiful. It's a great way to get in touch, and it's important because the public needs to get in touch with you. That's important. It's
Of course
important
it
to
is.
be.
Of course it
The
is. It's not just
importance
an
is that
email. Now we
it
have us there.
creates. Yeah, yeah,
Well, there is a
exactly.
contact form that
Hmm.
you can use to contact me there. We will be adding a schedule page and some other things, of course, soon.
That's critical too.
Well, we don't
Uh,
have that much of a schedule
yeah,
yet.
yes, I understand. That's another. Once you get a lot of DJs, it's critical
But we're
to have
gonna do
a
that.
schedule
But we're
page set
definitely
up
gonna do that.
accurately, set to the listener's time zone. That's a huge problem
Do
and a
you know
huge.
how to get a thing that sets people to their time zone? Because that is something I've been wanting, but I've been having a
Here's
challenge with
here's the
doing it.
answer. I don't know, but I know someone who does. Let's talk over the
Let's talk
phone.
off air. Yeah,
Let's
let's do
talk
it.
over the phone, and I'll get you into my WhatsApp, and I'll tell you there's several people who you need to have a meeting with, and once you talk to these people, you'll be in good company.
All right,
Anyway,
I'm looking
though.
forward to it. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Anyway,
So
though,
cool.
so I would just say, please look at the bottom of that. Just cracks me up. Please look at the bottom of that email, and you would see my signature where I took the time to write the number that I would like you to call me on initially. So if you can send me a
Perfect.
text, if you
I will
can,
totally do that tonight. I will say, hey, this is David, and they'll have my number then. Perfect.
I'll hold you to it.
Do
David,
that.
amazing episode as always, guys. Thank you so much. Hey, don't
Of
forget,
course.
guys. Don't forget. Go over to that 2020 The Beacon. Give them some love. Fill out that contact form. Hey, share it with a friend. Hey, it's just doing the little stuff, right? Do you know that if you shared this with a friend on Facebook, whoever you are, that would help a lot. Little things, guys. Do the little things. Shine rays of light on in little ways around the world. It helps.
Exactly.
It helps if we could get people to just do tiny things, that would help in a huge way. Thank you so much, everybody. I'm sure, David, I'm sure you know how I end an episode of Aaron's Opinion. Speaking about doing little things, how do I end an episode?
You do your thing, man. I've taken up your
Beautiful.
stage. You do your thing.
Beautiful, beautiful. I loved having you on my stage, by the way. We say thank you for listening. Keep podcasting. We'll be back next time. Help one person today. Help 1 million people tomorrow. For the survivors on YouTube, thank you so much for joining us there. Like the video, comment below. Tickle the bell notification to know when we go live next on YouTube. Thanks so much, everybody. That's all I want to say. Thank you to everybody who participated, and we will be back soon. Thank you so much. Have a good night.